viewers and listeners of Onfire Agape Ministry TV and radio. I want to welcome you today to our show. We are at a place called Nakuru County, Njoro Sub County at Mau Forest. Today we are going to learn the history of a village called Ndosw. We want to find out these people that came to Ndosw, where were they from? Most people that live here in Ndosw are from the Kikuyu tribe, but they are surrounded by Kalenjin. These other places are inhabited by Kalenjins. There are stories about this place called Mau Forest. As most people know it, we want to learn about the history of this place and what they went through, and also how they went about it. Today we have James Kamau Wanjogona, who we will be talking to. He is among the first settlers or the founders of this village since his youth. James Njogona, welcome to our show. My name is James Kamau Njogona, and I was born in 1945. Sorry to interrupt you. You had told me earlier that in this forest, the Kikuyus had been brought from another place, and the forest was empty. No other tribe was living here. No, that's what I meant. It's not that they were brought from another place. They were coming seeking for job opportunities here. They would be employed in the forest, and the bigger job was to be given land that you may clear the native forest, that you may plant trees, that the commercial trees like casca, blue gum, and most of the normal trees. So we would clear the bushes and then plant the food stuff that we want. After 3 years, then we are moved to that place, and that place they plant the trees. Then we go to clear another place. That's what used to happen. So in other words, you mean that these people wanted the people to come and clear the forest for them. And after you come and clear, you are allowed to farm for 3 years, and then you're moved to another place. Yes, but we were living in some kind of a village or a camp. Then if you go out and clear a place, you are given that place to farm for a while. Let me ask you, because you are going to clear in a forest, were there no wild animals? Because I remember when I used to hear about the railway, when they were making the railway, we would hear stories about lions eating people. At Tsavo, it is Tsavo. Were there no animals like those while you came? There were animals. There were leopards, there were lions, there were buffaloes, but those animals used to attack them. Some, like the deer, were hunted. There was no law against that. And eat them. Was there a history of anyone that was eaten by a lion? No, I did not hear of any. Yes, I did not hear about anything like that. But we used to hear of people that were attacked by the buffaloes. Let's talk about when your father came to Kamwaura. Now he's come from Kamwangi to Kamwaura. We stayed there. I was born there, like I told you, in 1945. For me to begin to understand things, it was around, I think, 1950, when I was just a boy. So you were born in Kamaura? Yeah, I was born there. So I used to graze the livestock. I was brought up in the way that most Kikuyu children are brought up. After that, in 1953, this is when the conflict of Mau Mau began. So our village and the other village I told you about, Kamaura, it was Kambi and Kariara. Those villages were the ones who had formed now the Mau forest. The plan was that all those villages, because they were living in different places, they be brought together. That all the people be brought together. So there was a law that came that said that all people to go to a place called Rurie. So we were to go to Rurie. The people of Kamwaura, Kabe, and Gishagi, some would go to Gishagi Gyagetiro, and some where it's called Rurie. For me, in 1953, that is when I joined school. In that school, it was in a hilly place, and all these people were working together. But in that village, because I want to explain how the name Ndosw came to be, the school had one block that was divided into 4 classes: class 1, class 2, class 3, and class 4. So the school was up to class 4. So I used to come from Rurie. I pass by the village and I go to school. That village was called Plot. So you would pass by that plot. That's where the school was built. When it was time for emergency, there was somebody that was killed because it was time for Mau Mau, yani the freedom fighting. They wanted to know who had killed this person because murder was a crime. So they were moved. Who was this person that was killed? This person belonged to the government. I suspect he was a spy, or he gave some secrets of the Mau Mau people. So this time the Mau Mau fight is going on. Yes, that is why we had been brought from the place I told you called Stick. So the war is continuing. Yes, the war is continuing. How old were you then? I was around 8 years then. I was 8 years. So when this person was killed, how was he killed? I would not be able to explain how he died because I was still a very young boy. I only hear stories of what happened. In that village, everybody was moved. The government brought cars and carried everybody away because of the matter, because it was not established who did it. When they were moved, they were being taken back as far as Limuru so that people can go back to where they had come from. So the village was left empty for like a whole year. So the bushes and the shrubs grew back. But the children would pass by the same village going to the school. The school had no name. It was not called Ndosw by name. It got that name after So when they were moved, and they all moved from there, these people of Karwara and the others from the village of Rurie and of Kambe and all the other places I've told you about, some were chosen and they went to open a forest called Naivet. But the ones that remained are the ones that went into that village. So they occupied that place. And my father was among them that occupied that village. I too am growing up, so I joined the school. I started that school in 1953. That was 31. So I studied there up to 1958. I did an exam called Common Entrance Exam. I passed and I went to a school called Beshinda. So at this time, is Mau Mau War still going on? No, the Mau Mau War ended in 1957. That is when it is said the Field Marshal Dedan Kimathi was arrested and killed. The war ended, but the people that were there in the village at that time of the war, that village in 1957, they planted a fence around it. The trees were got from the forest. And they built 3 gates. One to go to the Shambas, another one to go to a place called Njoro, and another one to go to the white man. So why did they lock you in? No, they fenced it for our defense, for our protection, so that anybody that wants to come in will first pass through a home guard who are chosen to protect that village. So it was security. So what you are saying is that you could not be able to go out without permission, and you could not have come in without permission. Yes, at night you could not have gone out, because at that time there were terrorists, those people that were in the forest, that they may not come in to fight against you, or you were not allowed also to give them food. Are you talking about Mau Mau? Yes. So the government fenced because of that reason. You want to tell me Mau Mau people were beating up their own? The government was making sure that we would not be able to feed them, that we will not be able to help them or sustain them. That's the reason why they kept guards to keep those gates, so that you be allowed to go out and farm. We were not forbidden from going out to farm or to do all the other activities. But when it comes to evening, we all had to go back. So that's where the village of Ndosw came in. Now, the village of Ndosw, there was a river that was streaming from Mau Forest. When it reached down here, because it was coming from the hills, the water is flowing downstream, there was a place where the plants had grown, and the plant's name was Ndosw, Matodwa. They usually grow up in swamps. I see them, I know them. Yes, I know them. We used to take them as children and play with them. So the name of the village came from those plants. Let me ask you a question. Would you remember the names of the people that were employed at the gate? There was a man called Kamau Wamoturi, Gatimo Wamuhari. Those were the home guard. So those were the ones that were called guard. Were these the same people that were called spies by the Kikuyu tribe? No, these people were not those kinds. They were given a job to man the gates. There was a tower that was built by the school. The police or the guard would go up there so that they can man the compound or see the enemy coming from afar. At that time, who had employed these people? Was it the white man? Yes, it was the government that time. It was under the colonialists. So the government that time was by the colonialists. Yes, we had not received our independence because these people that are in the forest are fighting for our independence. We are under colonial rule. When you're talking about the government, I was thinking it's like the time of Kenyatta or something like that. Kenyatta has still not come yet. We are still fighting for the independence. That is why people are still in the forest fighting. But soon we would get our independence. But so as to protect the people of the forest and the people that were living there, the government was to protect them for their security from those that were in the forest should they come to get their food, because they used to come. Let's talk about Ndosw. Yeah, like I told you, the name Ndosw came from those plants in that swamp area where there was water passing by. So that's where the village Ndosw came to be. Yes, that's where it came from that river. And from there, people inhabited that village. So Ndosw is an old village. Yes, it is a very old village. At that time, it was the Kikuyu tribe living there, right? Yes, it was the Kikuyu. No other tribe was living there. Let's talk about after that. Now the people have fought for independence. Kenyatta have come in and become the leader now. And what happened after that? Now after the war ended in 1957. That's when the war ended everywhere. And then they started moving politically, creating parties so that they may get the presidency. There was Kadu and Kanu. So Kenyatta was in the side of Kanu. So they competed to see who will lead this country. So they went, as you hear, they went up to even Lancaster House as they sought for independence. Now Kenyatta, remember they had been arrested in 1952 together with people like Ochieng Oneko and Kagia. They were 6 people. They were taken to Kapenguria. They stayed there around 7 years. When they came out, we were still in that village, and they fought for independence, and they won it at 1961. And they were parties so that they can decide which party will rule. The independence was given at 1963. As we continue, before we go further, if something bad happened in this village, where were you reporting it? In those times, if something bad or something wrong happened that time, you would report it to a government office. There was a government office for the forest. So we would report it there. And that's where they would take the lawful steps. For example, the lands that we were given, the terrorists, we used to call them gang. They had rebelled against the Mau Mau fighters. They were called Komerera. They had rebelled against the Mau Mau. They had the guns and they had taken the oaths, but they were not with the original Mau Mau. They used to attack. They are the reason why the villages had been fenced against them. Let me ask you a question. If these two groups met, did they fight? No, they did not fight. But they were being hunted because they used to do some bad things, like they would go and take other people's harvest because they did not have anything to eat. And they were also violent. Sometimes they would even beat up people. I remember another man, a man called Ndosw. He woke up very early to go hunt for deer. It was a bit far. It was around 4 kilometers from the village to go where they would hunt. When he went very early in the morning, that group called Komerera were where the bamboo trees were. They were lying down there, taking the potatoes, taking the maize, and they would roast them there. They had an issue because they could not go back to the villages because everybody knew that they had gone to the forest to fight for independence. And they were afraid that if they came back, they would be killed. So one of the men in the Komerera group saw that man Ndosw, and he thought that Ndosw would report him because he knew him. So they chased him, and he came running back to the village, and it was a long stretch. By the time he got to the village, panting, and the report be taken to the guard, we called it the office of the white man. So by the time we get there, it would take a while. We would go there at around 3 in the afternoon. It was reported to the people in the office of the white man, who had the authority to take the Land Rover and go search for those people. They had the permission to even beat them or even kill them. So the home guard went after they were told by this man, and they found out it was true. because they found where these Komerera guys were cooking. They fought. That group were using guns that were called Gotora, because once you shoot a few bullets, then you would have to bend it so that you can be able to put in more bullets. There they fought, and one of them was killed, and he was brought. At that time, if something happened and we were at school, we would be told that a gang member had been killed, and we are also allowed to see the body. We were allowed to see those dead bodies. I don't know why, because in most places, children are forbidden from seeing a murdered person or a corpse. But in that time, we were allowed to see the dead bodies. Then that person would be cut, their hands would be taken so that they would go and take the fingerprints. So the others ran away. Well, as we continued, the war was over and they began to surrender, each person in their own way. I don't know where they used to surrender, and they were accepted back to the society. So people would go about and surrender. Yes, you would surrender. At that time, there were places where they would go and surrender. They were all over the country, not only in Njoro, they were all over the country, because most people had taken the vow to fight for independence. So when these people were unable to live in the forest, what steps did they take that they may come back to the society? Well, nobody that had joined Mau Mau that came back and we established that they had surrendered. So they would stay there, and they would be chased and killed, or those that had relatives, they wanted food, they would come at wee hours. But now the home guards, should they see somebody coming and he was not one of us, they would raise an alarm, meaning that there is danger ahead, so that everybody would be alert. And the other home guards would understand that language and know that there is something that is happening. So they will all come together to find out what is going on. And when those guys would hear that, they would then run away. So that's how the village of Ndosw came about, and then it was fenced. Yeah, we lived there for a long time, and then we get our independence at 1963. Then we get to be a republic in 1964, but we continued to live there. It was called El Bagon Forest Reserve. But this word reserve confused a lot of people, because most people felt like because they were there, they owned that place. The lands had been allowed to be sold and bought, but the people in the reserve thought they had these lands, so they did not bother to buy lands. So people all around began to join societies, and the societies, people did not buy a lot, did not pay too much to join them. By that time, for you to get a share, you would need 1,300. Most people that were wise at that time, they went taking shares and buying shares of land everywhere. But most people, they did not think it was necessary because they would confuse the word reserve and think that they own the land. We stayed there and we continued living there even after the first president, Jomo Kenyatta, died in 1978 and Moi took over. And as Moi continued in his presidency, there came a time that we received an order to move from the forest. We were called for a meeting. We were then told in that meeting that everybody that has retired was given 3 days to leave the forest, not telling us where we would go or caring about it. So before we get to that part, I would want you to tell me where you used to go to school there in Ndosw. How many teachers were there? Also, I would want to know, are there any colonial songs that you know? And can you sing one for me? They used to sing because after the war, there was something called screening. What that means is that those people that had taken a vow for the war, they were then taken so that they would be questioned. Even our fathers were questioned to see if they had taken the vow. There were people who were chosen so that they can do that job of investigation, of interrogation. So they will be taken, interrogated. If they were found to have taken the vow, they would be taken to detention. Most would come from villages, even some from Ndosw, and there were songs that they used to sing. They used to sing such songs. Those songs, it was not Kamaro who had written them. No, it was not Kamaro. Yes, they were sung by warriors because they wanted to encourage and strengthen the people in the community. So those songs were there and were sung by the warriors. How many teachers were there in Ndosw Primary? You had asked me that question. In Ndosw Primary, where I joined, there were 4 teachers. How many children were there in the school? Well, every class would have around 10 children because we were around 40 pupils in the school. So let's go back to where we were. Now, you had been given 3 days to move from the forest. Now we are in 1988. At this time, we have grown up, we have been brought up. That is when Moi evicted us. We were called to a meeting. We were told that all the squatters have been given 3 days to move from here. People had just harvested the crops they had planted. So we went to look for vehicles to move. Some went to Njoro, other went to different places, anywhere that anybody felt that that's where they would be safe. Some rented houses. Oh, so you came here? Yes. Oh, you bought this place? No. This is what happened. In all those villages, there was a women group that was called Nyakenywa. That group had been formed that they may go and entertain the president. They used to sing and entertain the president. There are days that they used to go and dance for the president. They had been going for a while. From 1970s, they would go to dance for Kenyatta. All manner of dances and so many types of dances. There was a government car that used to come and pick them up, and they would take them to the state house that was in Nakuru. So they would sing. So as a reward, the president then would say, "You women group of Elbagon, I will give you land." So this is the land that they were giving. But I want you to know that not everybody from Ndosw that got a piece of land like we did, because this piece of land was only given to the women group, the Nyakenywa. And not all the Nyakenywas, all them that went to dance for Kenyatta. So my mom was among those that used to go and dance for Kenyatta. So she was lucky to get her 5 acres. And since I was his firstborn son, and by that time, girl child would not get an inheritance, so I ended up inheriting this land. And then she died. And I buried her in this place too, because this was her place. Now I live here with my family. I have 4 sons, but one is deceased, and 4 daughters. So I have 7 children, but all my daughters are now married. I'm happy to hear your story. And before we go, I would want you to share your phone number. If somebody listens to this story and they are excited about it, how can they be able to reach you? Give us your phone number.
0727 35 8810.
Repeat.
0727 35 8810. Yeah.
What name would they give?
James K. Jogona. James Kamau Jogona.
James Kamau Jogona. I'm very happy because of the history that you have given me. It is going to excite our viewers on Onfire Agape TV, and our listeners on Onfire Agape Radio. Thank you for welcoming us, and thank you for having us and telling us all that you've told us, because this is educative information and we can learn from this. And we are grateful for having us, and we pray that may God bless you, and we are grateful. I too want to say thank you for you coming to interview me, so that you may know things that happened when you were not around yet, the history of our country, how far we've come up until now. So this time is different from that time, because we were able to have many sheep. But now it's not possible because the area is small. There we had many sheep, but we were not allowed to raise he and she goat, because they would hurt the barks of the tree. They will not allow the tree to grow well. If you get goats, and I will show you here because I have them, and then plant trees, the goats would go and snow on the backs of the trees. So the trees would dry up, and the white men would not allow that because they would destroy the trees. You told me you were born which year? How old are you? Now I am 81 years old. Wow, I thought you were around 51 years. No, I was working with Kenya Farmers Association, and I worked with them for 25 years. I retired at 1999. That's when I actually retired. That time, we would retire at the age of 55. So from that time until now, I have lived an independent life, not working for anybody. Your story is very interesting, and we are very happy. And I think me and my friend, we will come and visit you often. We talk about life. My friend who is in the US, his name is Gatukui. Oh, Gatukui, I know him. I think he has a relative called Ndarwa and another one called Kareithi. Well, the same Gatukui has also donated some funds for water projects down there. Yeah, he also has given and donated a lot of tanks down there. So when you mentioned his name, I remembered him. I know him. You can greet him. You can greet him using the camera. I know that he will watch you. I greet you, Gatukui, of the clan of Kareithi. My name is Kamau Wanjuguna, and my elder sister is called Muthoni from Gatondo. Remember me and send me something. I'm still here. Thank you so much, Mr. Gatukui. Gatukui is our director. He's the one that has sent us to interview you. He's our boss. He has a brother by the name Mungai, who is also in the US. Do you know him? So you know them? Yes, I know them. I know them very well. Because my sister is married to one of his relatives. He has come here and done a water project here in Kayefa. Even this school nearby, he has also come to help. But it's been a while since he came. Well, he is going to come very soon. He has a plan. I know he has taken your number and is going to call you. I'm sure you're going to talk to him very soon. We are happy and we are very grateful. Now to the viewer and the listener of Agape TV and radio, I hope you have enjoyed that story and you're happy about it. We will bring part 2 of that village called Ndosw. And I want you to hear in part 2 of the bad things that happened to them after they were kicked out of the forest by Moi. All their struggles, that is part 2 of our story. So remember to watch and subscribe and keep watching. Our listeners and viewers of Agape TV and radio, we are back. And we bring you a documentary of a place called Ndosw. Ndosw is in Njoro, a place called Mau, which was also called Mau Forest, where the Kikuyu had been brought from various places and they did good farming. We want to know the history of this place and also understand what happened to the village. And we have a guest today with me, and I want him to say hi to the people. to the viewers of Onfire Agape TV, on Agape Radio, and tell them where you live. My name is Samuel Kimani, and I came from a village called Ndosw. I used to work there in the forest. But then we were kicked out. That's when I came to this place called Beeston. Before you came to Ndosw, where were you from? I was born in Ndosw. So your parents are the one who came to Ndosw. Where did your parents come from? They had come to Ndosw a very long time. They had lived there for a very long time. So he came to reserve a very long time ago. He married there and he stayed there. So you bought a piece of land in reserve? No, that was the forest we were given. What happened after you were given and you did farming? We stayed there as workers until we retired. That was a very long time ago, around 1900, in the time of the colonial. But people kept coming. The colonialists kept bringing more and more people. There were people that were paid 2 shillings, another one 6 shillings, and another one 8 shillings. So when I joined, the payment was around 12 shillings. So I was employed in the forest. What happened that you left Ndosw? That was a very hard thing for us. I don't understand how and why the government of Moi did that. Because we were the one planting the trees and manning the forest. We don't really understand what happened, because they had even built us houses, wooden houses, and others with iron sheets. They had even given us water. They had even built shops that belonged to the government. The workers they had even built toilets for the workers. Each toilet 4 people. So everybody lived there without expecting to move. We even had a sub-chief from the colonialists, and we had other leaders that were by the board of the forest, and they used to operate well. They used to take the reports to the chief, to the DO. How did you leave that place? We were given notice to move. We were given a 3-day notice, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We were told that nobody should be found there. And the Moi government came to confirm that everybody had left. That was the time of John Anguka. John Anguka was the DC of Nakuru town. John Anguka was famous and tough. What happened when you left there? Monday was the final day to leave, but I was left behind with 2 other people so that we may look after the houses of the government. We used to live there and sleep there with the government police. We were 6 people, the 2 of us and 4 policemen. Then the people of Dorobo would come and we would see them grazing there on and off. They used to come and graze their cattle. They would even graze in the lands of the people, but nobody could ask them because the government had allowed them. So the farmers began to question what was going on. So immediately after the Kikuyus were kicked out, the Dorombos came in It was even less than a week, and they were allotted the lands. And they were allotted these lands by the government. The government was using the government vehicles. So the government allotted these lands immediately. Yes, we were kicked out on Monday, and by Tuesday and Wednesday, the Dorobos had begun to come in and take the lands. So other people from other tribes came in and they were given land. Yes, they came in, the Dorobos came in and they were allotted our lands. And even today, the way those lands were divided, they are the same way today. So that's how you lost your lands. Yes, and people also lost harvest because they had planted a lot. They even lost property because 3 days was a very short time to plan yourself. People had no cars, no way to be able to move properly. Some had elder parents. It was very hard. And within 3 days, other people had come in and taken the lands. But the government houses, the ones that were by iron, they were moved to another place. They brought people from the jail to come and move these houses. Yes, on Monday was our final day to be there. So by Tuesday, they brought in the prisoners to come and move these iron houses. They came with 3 lorries and began to pull down those houses. So it is evident that the government already knew. There are people, great people from the government that used to come and they would tell me, I am the PC and I want a house here. They will come with papers and tell me to give them the houses. And because they had the papers from the government, I would show them the houses and tell them, choose whichever you want. Because I didn't have the authority to keep them from taking the houses. So you want to mean the houses were taken by the government officials? Yes, some of them were taken by them. Did they take them so that they can live in them? No, they took them. I don't know where they took them. So the Kikuyus lost their properties. No, these houses belonged to the government. The Kikuyus had only mud houses and grass houses, and the people were told to destroy them and carry everything they owned. So when you left there, that's when you came here. What is the name of this place? Biston, Rorie. That is the name of this place. This was a swampy place. So we bought this place. We would join up like 8 people and buy a half acre, and then we would divide it among ourselves. So this place was swampy and flooded. Yes. We used to look for ways, even when cooking, we would have to come up with ways of keeping the water from coming up. We would lay down plastic papers and then put soil over them to keep the water from flooding, that we may be able to live. Even when building, you could not have laid a foundation with 2 stones. You had to do it with around 4. so that you may lift it a bit above the ground. So that is how you came and you bought and you stayed. The neighbors were the one who sold us. So do you do farming here? About farming, there is a story about it. So we struggled a bit not knowing what to do. People got so hungry. So the people began to sneak back into the forest and look for wood for building and sell it at a place called Motukanio. We used to pay 75 shillings so that we can be allowed to go into the forest and cut wood. So if you paid 75 shillings, you would be allowed to go in and cut wood for 30 days and also burn the charcoal. So as we continued, it was evident that that was not enough to raise the children and to go on our daily lives. There was a lot of poverty. So people thought to themselves, if they could go back to the forest where they used to farm, and the people that were allotted had not already occupied the whole land, they had come just one by one, and they would also come and go because they had vehicles, because they were told that they were being allotted the lands by the government. But when they came, they found that it was the forest, a place they felt was not safe for them and their children, so they would come and go. So the people would go back slowly by slowly, trying to sneak in. And we had a very hard time with the police who used to run after us. If they catch you, they would take you to the police station and they would even fine you 500 or 600. But after the plants would grow to some extent, the forest police would leave us alone for a while, and that is how we survived. But when they all came to their lands, it became impossible for us to sneak in and farm because we could not farm somebody else's shamba. That's when we started leasing land from the same people. Most of them were people we knew because we had lived among them. So they used to hire out their lands to us for around 50 shillings. They would give us either an acre or half an acre for that 50 shillings, and we would continue to farm. And at that time, there would be no trouble. We continued that way, but the prices of lease kept going up. Now I hear it's around 30,000. Many people came in to lease land, even others from the urban areas, so they would take somebody who had more money to give their land. So you struggled so much to raise your children in this place. Yes, it's only that the school committee also came from the forest, so at least they knew our struggles and our problems, and they would understand us. So our children were not sent home all the time. They were a bit patient with us. But the poverty was so much because there is nowhere you could have made money. Even though you were working like me, the salary is around 3,000. 3,000 is not even enough for food, leave alone for schooling. Even buying stuff like uniform is a challenge. And if a child has no uniform, it is hard for them to go to school. So even the children had a hard time. Was the poverty ever too much that people resorted into crime like stealing. No, in these areas, people did not resort to such measures. I've never heard of such. We were also surrounded by places that had security. You see, on my left, it is land, Egerton land. And we are also bordering another community. So we never used to interact, but nowadays we do, because they have married our daughters and we have married theirs. They have come to our houses to rent, and so now we have become as one community. When you used to live in the other place, what was the problem of that place? Where did you get the water? The water was trapped in the forest. They had built a wall of around 7 feet or 8 from the ground and the width of 25 feet. They had trapped the water. That's the water that the people used to drink. There were large tanks that used to collect water from the dam. They were around 4 for the workers. Was there oppression there? Yes, there was oppression. But because we were employees, we could not say anything. So if we were oppressed by things that the government would do, we had to just keep quiet. But people used to struggle a lot, because even the food stuff that we were planting and harvesting, we used to sell them at a throwaway price. But we could not protest. If you protested, you would be kicked out of that place. So some people had been kicked out. They would be put in a lorry and sent away. And because of that, so many people feared, and they would not protest any injustice. So you had to take it. Yes, we had to be humble. Even when you saw injustice, yes, you keep quiet. There was no room to protest. The people that were a bit influential, the ones that could talk, were the ones that were always arrested. They will be taken to the police station. Then after 2 days, they will be brought back. They would take everything that belonged to them and they will be kicked out, taken to the nearest town. We used to call it Town Yareri. And they would leave you with all your belongings there, with nowhere else to go. Did you ever find out where any of those that had been kicked out they went? Maybe there are others that were kicked out and they died. Others maybe they went and became rich. Did you ever find out about any of them? No, we were not able to follow up because we were all in the danger of being kicked out. And because of the struggles, we were all trying to survive. So what are the problems of where we are at Beeston? I hear that there are problems with... So what are the challenges of Beeston? I have heard that there are problems of digging toilets. Our first challenge is that the land is very small. It's just a plot. So you cannot even bury your dead here. You cannot dig a borehole here. Why do they refuse? Why do they keep you from digging boreholes? They say that this place is very crowded. And if you look at the other side, you will see that there are many tanks because they were allowed to dig their boreholes. But that was because in that area there was not so many people like here. We get our water from a nearby river called Darugo, which comes all the way from the forest, which flows to Njoro and then goes to a place called Piamu and then Nakuru. So you have no water here. What about electricity? Yes, we don't have water here, but we do have electricity. The Uhuru government brought us electricity. During the electoral season, has there ever been trouble here or political contention? No, but sometimes there was contention. Our neighbors are a different community, and sometimes they feel like we Kikuyus are very many and can sway the election. But the government with offices at Njoro, they come in and they solve those issues. But you would hear once in a while somebody was killed or some people were killed. Some people were shot by arrows. Such things we hear about now and then. So during the elections, there is some fear. There is a bit of worry in the time of elections because we usually don't know what will happen, who will come. And as you came, I know you saw the settlement of this place. There are areas that don't have many people. So sometimes goons can hide in those places. There are times that people were sent, they hid and they killed a woman and they were able to escape through another route. And they carry all your stuff. Oh, let me ask you another question. How did you end up working in the forest? How did you end up getting a job in the forest? We were arrested one day when we were young, and they had said that we were bad people. So when we were taken to the government office, the officer looked at us and said, "These are children." So we were given jobs. That's how we got our job. We were paid 32. We were paid 32 shillings. So they were taking you to the police station to be arrested. And the plan was changed. Instead, you got jobs. Yes, we got jobs. And my father was a police officer in the forest. Even my father was among them. We were not bad people. It's only that they disliked us. So when we were employed, we were given 32 shillings. And the forester said, "We are very good people." We were given better jobs and good positions. I was given a job to announce where people should report to work. Can you give us a demonstration of what you used to do? Did the people used to hear what you would say? Yes, they would. We had a homemade horn speaker. It was very loud. You would move with it, giving the information and people telling people where they would go tomorrow. Whenever the chief had a meeting, I would also announce and I would tell them. So I was like the town messenger or the village messenger. Were there people that used to come to you for you to explain your message when they did not understand? No, everybody would hear and understand the announcement. And also they would even talk amongst themselves, saying what the announcement was. They would tell one another, last evening, this was the message. So you used to announce in the evening? Yes, I used to announce at night. You have a very interesting story, and we are happy to have interviewed you. And I would want you to tell the people that are viewing your number, because there are people that may want to know your story, to hear that story. So they may want to hear the story from you or even appreciate you with something. So give us your phone number.
0710 920 760.
We are very happy because of your story. We have been sent to you by our chairman, Mr. Gatukoi. Do you know him? Those were the people that left when they were very young, but I know his parents. If you would tell him Inoro, the guy that used to make announcement, he would remember me. So you are very famous. Inoro was my grandfather's name. We are very grateful for your story, you giving us your story, and for welcoming us in this place. And I'm sure our viewers and our listeners of Onfire Agape TV and radio have enjoyed this story just like we have. And I know our viewers will call you. And I want to say that we are grateful. And may you have a good day full of God's blessing. I too am very happy. We only see the media people from afar, and when we get closer, we are told move away. So I too, I am glad. But today they can talk to us. Yes, today Onfire Agape TV and radio has visited you at the comfort of your home. I greet you once again, viewers and listeners of Agape TV radio. We are here with another guest who is a very good friend of our CEO, Samuel Gatukoi. Mr. Mwathi is his good friend who can explain to us where Mr. Gatukoi come from, how Onfire Agape Ministries began, because I came in later and joined and have continued in it. Welcome, Mr. Mwathi. You can tell us your names. My names are David Mwathi Muthoi. I was born in the village of Ndosw from my childhood. Mr. Gatukoi has been my friend since my childhood. Mr. Gatukoi had come from a village in Kiambu and came to Ndosw village in 1968. In 1968, that's where we began our schooling in nursery school. We had teachers like Philip Wamboi and Nduta, the daughter of the headman. They were our teachers in that nursery school. We went on to primary school, and our teacher was called Samuel Karaoke, our class 1 teacher. We had a nickname for our teacher because he was very tough. I am not at liberty to say that name, but he had earned that name because he was a very tough teacher. He used to beat us without mercy. We were very close friends with Mr. Gatukoi. Even when he would be sent to the shop, I would always take him. He had an aunt who was living in another village, so we used to go together through the forest, which was very fearful, but we were not fearful. I remember one time he had been sent to a place to get the skuma wiki at a place called Naiveti. We met men from another hostile community and they chased after us. How far are we talking? From the village of Naivet to Ndosw, it was around 6 kilometers. So we used to go through the forest. So we used to go together. But in case I am not around, he would go by himself. And when he came back, he would tell me the story of how he went alone, and I would pity him. But not at any one time did he find a wild animal. He would go and come back safely. We continued and grew up together up to class 6. That's when we were separated, when his mother died at 1976, and we buried her in Ndosw village. And that was a very sorrowful day for me because that's when my friend moved away. Because after the death of his mother, he was taken in by his uncle who was living in Njoro. So that's where he studied, and I was left in Ndosw, and he left. From there, I lived in that village of Ndosw, and in 1988, that's when we were kicked out of that forest by the government of Moi on May 1988, on May 1988. And we were told we were squatters, so we left that place and I went to Eldoret and I lived there. And then I came to a place called Lodian. And Lodian is where I have lived most of my life. And there is a lot of struggles because we live in the middle of another hostile community and tribal clashes. That's where one time my house was burnt with everything in it. We had businesses there, but the height of this war was in 2007. That was the fiercest battle. That's where our businesses and houses were burnt, and we moved from that place and we came to a place called Kikuyu. So now I live in Kikuyu. After coming from that place called Lodian, we live in Kikuyu as IDPs. And when you're going through all this trouble, your friend Mr. Katukuyu Do you still talk to him, or are you talking to him? From 1976, because there were no phones, we lost contact because we were not even allowed to go out from Ndosw to Njoro. But we reconnected when I was living in Lodian. We talked on the phone and he told me he had gone to live in America. From that time, we began to talk on the phone and we've been doing so. So all this while you have been there. Yes, all those battles, I was there and I lost a lot of things. In those wars, did you lose any of family members? In those times, I myself did not lose any family members, but their friends, I lost friends. They were killed. And it was hard times because they would come and shoot people with arrows, carry their cattle and properties. They will carry anything that you had and everything. Do you think there is going to be unrest again? Before we get there, the wars were because these people had been told by their leaders that if they kick our tribe out, all our lands will go to them, and that they would take over our properties. They would come into our houses and live in them. That's what they were promised. That did not happen, although some lost their lands and the houses were burnt. And now because of that, every time the elections come close, people are worried and they are afraid because they have seen what usually happens during those times. Because they come to kill, they steal people's properties. So people in such areas are always worried and anxious about that. But we pray to our God that since He protected us even at those times, that He will continue to protect and keep us. That even now as we wait for election, that their peace will prevail and there will be unity in our nation. Thank you, Mr. Mwathi. That is also our prayer, that even as we go to the election, there will be unity and there will be peace in our nation. And whatever the outcome, the people will be content, because that is what usually causes contentions in our country. I do not know if you have anything else to say, but you can also give our viewers your phone number.
Hamaretwo makwa njĩtagwo David Mwathi Mũthũi. Namba ya thimũ nĩ 0727 482 755.
Ncokera rĩngĩ.
Namba ya thimũ nĩ 0727 482 755.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mwathi. I know our director is very happy. He talks so much about the good things you do, and he likes it when he's doing something and you are involved because he trusts you. So I want to thank you on behalf of our boss, CEO Mr. Gatukui, because he acknowledges you, because you're a faithful person. Thank you so much. And our viewer and listener of Onfire Agape TV and radio, what we can ask you is that you may subscribe, Onfire Agape TV and radio. Watch, share and like.